If you're ready to unlock more better days, to take control of your health, to push past your limits and unleash your full potential, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Bettle. For over 2 decades, I've worked with elite athletes and high performers, helping them optimize their bodies, strengthen their minds, and recover from setbacks. Now I'm bringing that expertise to you through the Vitality Collective podcast. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the science, strategies, and real-world solutions you can apply right away. Whether it's enhancing your physical performance, avoiding or recovering from injury, sharpening your mental edge, or simply feeling your best every single day. With insights from top experts and thought leaders, this podcast is designed to help you take action, feel better, and live the life that you deserve. Welcome to the Vitality Collective podcast, where every day is vital. Hello and welcome to the Vitality Collective podcast, episode number 1, where we're going to talk about intelligent training. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Bettle, and I'm here today joined by my co-founder at Vitality Collective and my amazing wife, Michelle Bettle.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So Michelle is usually the producer behind the scenes. And today she's going to be turning the questions on me. So she's going to be our host. She's going to be guiding the interview and grilling me about all things intelligent training. So Michelle.
Yes.
Where do you want to start?
Let's start with your background. I think
Just,
give everybody a quick overview of why you're qualified to do this.
Yeah, that's a great place to start, I think. So originally from England, I came over after doing my undergraduate degree in sport and exercise science in the UK, and came over to the States in 2003 to do my master's. Got invited to stay on for my PhD. While I was doing my PhD, I knew I didn't want to be in academics, and so I figured that I needed to get some more experience in the real world. So during my PhD, I got out and started my work in high performance sport. Worked for USA Rugby, then into some private practice work, then went to the NCAA with UCSB. From UCSB, went to the Nets. I was the head strength coach and director of nutrition in the NBA for 5 years, and went up north, even further north, to Toronto, switched to hockey. First director of sports science and performance, overseeing the whole program and the whole of the NHL, which was a huge accomplishment, and really, really proud of that and the work we did there. Then we needed some sunshine. Yes. So we went back to California, worked for the Ducks for a couple of years, got them through COVID, built some programs to support the players as we navigated that unprecedented challenge. And then we switched again, went to soccer. So was performance director for New York City Football Club in the MLS.
Won the cup,
yeah, in 2021. So that was a huge run.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was really fun, wasn't it? Yeah, so we went out to Portland and played an MLS Cup final and just had an unbelievable experience. Won the cup on penalties, which is one of those iconic moments in sport.
Yes.
That I always dreamed about being a part of and got to be a part of that. So
yes. And it was on my 50th birthday.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really fun.
Good birthday gift.
Yeah, really good. And so from there, as we navigated the off season and into the preseason the following year, I think we had sort of come to the point where we'd achieved everything there was to achieve in sport. Repeated the role, got a number of clubs set up with their first sports science departments, and really felt like it was time for us to spend some time together, first and foremost.
Novel idea.
Yeah. And get out of sport, and build this for ourselves, and really build a system for vitality that wasn't constrained by other people's comfort with progress. And so as we've built Vitality Collective now, it really is being in sort of unconstrained service to other people, to our clients, and our ability to do things like this, where we can give away as much information as we can, because everyone can't work directly with us.
That's right. And
So
that's what this podcast is for.
exactly, yeah.
It's to give people accessible information that they can use because, like you said, not everyone has access to the system that we built.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So this is the first in our Essentials of Vitality series. And just to go over those, our Essentials of Vitality are intelligent training, conscious nutrition, restorative sleep, emotional, social, spiritual connection, optimal brain health, and proactive medicine. So today we're going to talk about intelligent training. But first, Michelle, why don't you give us a bit of your background?
Ooh, my background. My background is in business. I grew up in an entrepreneurial business. Yeah, and then I've always had an interest in health, and it actually wasn't until you and I met that I really had a way to express that. I didn't know what to do. I grew up in Middle Tennessee. They're not really known for their healthy choices and healthy lifestyles there. Um, yeah, and then we met, and I've since been training with you for 20 years. I've taught yoga. I'm a fascial stretch therapist, teach mat Pilates. Just a 20-year experience of being at the table with all of these brilliant people that you know and asking questions and just absorbing and learning. And we've lived it for our 20-year marriage.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing
Yeah.
is living this intelligent training lifestyle, really incorporating all of these essentials into our life. We pride ourselves in walking the walk, whilst acknowledging that we are not perfect.
Yes.
Right? We fall off the wagon ourselves. We go for stretches where we get really busy and life and work and building a business takes over. And then we have to apply those intelligent training principles ourselves to getting us back on track. So we've done all of this ourselves. We've started over. We've been incredibly fit in our time together, and now it's time to share some of those ups and downs.
Yes, and I think it's important for us, like we talk about this a lot, but it's important for us to normalize the ups and downs
Yeah.
because you see fit people online and you see fit influencers, and everything you see is not real.
So I think that's a great jumping off point for us, to really get into breaking down this whole intelligent training side of our vitality program.
Let's start with why we chose to call it intelligent training.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think for me, it comes down to the difference between training and working out. I'll never discourage anybody from moving, right? I think the more we can get moving, the more we can train, the harder we can train, the better we're going to be. But there's levels to this, right? There's always tiers to it. So I think first and foremost for me, intelligent training starts with the goal. What is your goal for your training? Why are you there? Why are you at the gym? Why are you making that decision to start training? For some people, it sort of starts at that very sort of basic level. Oh, I want to lose weight, or I want to be healthier. Well, how? How do you want to be healthier? Do you want to be stronger? What do you mean by lose weight? And so the more we can drill into that why from the person who is setting the goal, the person that's going to be training, that sets us on our mission. That's what guides the entire program. So number one, intelligent training is goal driven. All right, whether it's sport or a weight loss goal or whatever that might be. Next up, really for me, then we start getting into my side of it. So if your part of the goal is is what do you want out of this? My part of the goal is then for you, how do we get you there in a safe and effective manner to get you out of pain, to prevent injury, and then to optimize your performance? If we can do those things along the way, we're really dialing in and we're really protecting your vitality. And so with intelligent training, we've got your goal. We know the demands of your goal. We know the demands of the activities you want to do. And then we've got to start breaking those down to train your body for them. Whatever your specific limiting factor is how we're going to guide your program. So this is a highly individualized, highly specific way of training that is completely targeted to be the most efficient program for you to get you to enjoying the activities that you love. And that's what it's all about. Our whole goal at Vitality Collective is to keep you doing the activities you love for as long as you want to do them. These aren't my goals. These are your goals.
Thank you. One of the things that we hear a lot is with the people that we work with, they're like, well, you've worked with all these pro athletes. Why do you want to work with me? And I don't have an athlete's body and I'm not 25 years old anymore. Can you just speak to that?
Yeah, it's such a great point because I think that can be a bit of a barrier for people when looking at working with us, is that they see my background and think I just work with athletes or I want to work with athletes. But I actively chose to leave sport and pursue this career, this demographic at this stage of my life to work with people who are deeply invested in their own vitality and longevity. The parallels are direct from training athletes to training for longevity. The proving ground of professional sport just allowed us to try these things and see the results really, really fast. And I sort of refer to them as lessons from the edge. You know, we went right to the edge of human performance, tried to get those last 1 to 2% of performance out of people. And what we actually found was that it wasn't these tiny little gains that people needed, even at the top. That wasn't what kept them healthy. It wasn't what really optimized their performance. It was the basics. It was the fundamentals. So we built a program around exactly what we talked about: assessment. We did a big assessment of our players. Then we had interventions. Each person had their own intervention, right? Everybody was susceptible to an injury or was limited in their performance for their own reason. It wasn't that everybody was weak, right? Some people were super strong and needed more cardio. Other people were really fit and needed more strength. So it was really targeted. And then we monitored. So it's an underlying principle. This is our AIM methodology, where it's assess, intervene, and monitor. If we do those things, and what I mean by monitor is re-evaluate. The NHL or NBA season with 82 games, you're playing every 3-4 days, you're traveling, you're getting banged up, you're really competing hard. And so those numbers that we measured at the start of the season will end up changing. So we would measure them every couple of weeks. Now, with our clients, most of them aren't playing or trying to play in the NBA or NHL. And so what we do is we measure at the rate of physiological adaptation. So with this musculoskeletal program, we're looking at about every 8 weeks, quarterly, if we look at VO2 max. And that allows us to make sure that the individual isn't either dropping into susceptibility, but also that their program is on the right track. All the things we measured over here that they were susceptible for injury or needed to improve, we need to make sure we're making progress in the direction that we're going. Exactly the same process we use with the athletes. We're just performing at a little bit of a different level. That's all. So whether your goal is pickleball on a Sunday or playing in hockey night in Canada, Toronto, Montreal on a Saturday night, you still want to play well. You still want to not get hurt. And so it's our job to get you to a level that you're really happy with, whether you're a pro athlete or you're training for longevity.
Most of our clients says, like, we talk about them like they're athletes.
Yeah.
And they are. Like when you and I met, you were the first person to ever refer to me as an athlete.
Right.
And I did play softball when I was a kid, but I was not very athletic. I had not trained those traits.
Right.
Yeah, but now you do refer to me as athletic, which I appreciate that. And our clients, we see them as athletes, and they are. Tell me some of the sports that we train them for?
Yeah. So, oh man, the whole range, right? We've got everyone from people who want to hike. We've got pickleball. We've got tennis, swimming. We've got people
Heli skiing.
heli skiing, yeah,
Heli
of all
skiing.
things, yeah, yeah. Heli skiing, backcountry skiing, all of these extreme sports. Yeah. So we've got the whole gamut up there, but we've also got people who are coming to us with chronic pain, right? People who are in chronic pain are also like our athletes who would, when we would go looking for athletes who were actually about to drop out of the league, who had started with an injury and then they got another injury and then another injury and then another injury until it actually dropped out and didn't have a contract. So we'd go find them, do these assessments, see if there was anything that would limit us from improving them and just unwind that spiral that they'd been in. We'd tell the GM, okay, we need 3 months with him or we need 6 months with him. But we'd be able to sign a player who was, at their best, a $4, $5, $6 million a year player for the minimum, which when you're dealing with the salary cap, that was huge for us.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it over and over with people who are in this chronic pain situation. They've gone through surgery after surgery. They've not got out of pain and they've sort of bounced their way through the medical system until they've sort of been spat out. And they come to us really at the end of their options, with sort of a last chance saloon for them as it feels to them. Yeah. And so we're training them out of this injury spiral to get them back to some sort of normality, some sort of life where they're not anxious going to bed because they know the pain's going to keep them awake. So it really is a full spectrum of people that we're looking for or that we're working with. And not everyone starts at the level that they're currently at.
Yeah. And these are all really, fulfilling for us as well. Like the people, like we experience the wins with our clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, I of course, I've always enjoyed working with the athletes too. There was, I was able to work with some of your athletes. Actually, you threw me in with your athletes. You said, "Hey, Shell, I've got a couple athletes for you to do yoga with." And I walk in and there's like 20 guys ready for class and another class right after that. Yeah, I wasn't ready for that. But, trial by fire. But and that was fulfilling, but there's just a different level of being able to help people live their life.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
When you're working with athletes, it's 1 or 2%. These guys are really good and they're going to be really good with or without that 1 or 2%. I think we were able to help people build careers and help people maintain careers. And that's where this sort of movement went. It came out as longevity. So through vitality, through performance optimization came longevity in their athletic careers. And that's what we're doing in this vitality and longevity program that we have now. But it's not 1 or 2%. We've had people improve quad strength by 75%, grip strength by 50%. These are things that are adding 10 years of 10 good years onto your life. Think about the experiences that you're able to continue building with your family if you're able to continue your skiing for another 10 years.
Yeah, and it's not tacking those years on the end. It's essentially extending the middle good years.
That's the difference between longevity, where it's just you've descended into infirmity and now we can keep you alive for another 10 years, or can we sort of add those onto the curve where you're actually not dropping, we're going straight out, we're having quality years, you're able to do what you love, be around your family, keep up with everyone, lift up your grandkids, all these things. We're really changing people's experience of their life, of their own physical body within their life. I think we'll hear it on one of our other shows, but it was sort of described as one of those things that you can actually improve your body as you age.
Yes.
And that summed up intelligent training for me.
Yes.
You can experience yourself improving at something.
Yes.
Your
Physically.
your physical body,
Yes.
improving at something as you age.
Yeah.
And now listen, our clients aren't, in their 30s. We're talking people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Like, we're really seeing that we are able to improve every one of these traits at any stage of life. Wherever you're starting at, we're able to improve.
Let's come back to the assess, intervene, and monitor. Can we talk to me more about the interventions? Some of the people that are coming to us, what does that look like for them?
Yeah, I think, again, it's entirely based on the assessment.
Okay.
The way I look at it is, if your rehab doesn't include weightlifting, plyometrics, really training, it's incomplete.
Yeah.
If your training doesn't include rehab, it's incomplete.
Yes.
We're doing all of those things together. And that's a really key difference with what we're doing within the system.
Which is what you did in sport.
It's exactly what we did in sport, right? You take these siloed and separate components where the surgeon says, my job's to fix you. When physiological healing has occurred, you are done. Hand it off to the physical therapist, who their role's to sort of get you to a point where you're out of pain. And when that happens, done. And the trainer is then picking it up and saying, okay, now we're going to get you ready for sport. Well, that's one continuum. That's not three separate things. That's training. Right. So step one might be your surgery or getting injured. Step two is your rehab. Step three is your return to performance training. It's all in one curve. And so that's how we really built the system for the athletes and for our general population people. It's really a process of incorporating everything you need, all of the correctives. Your PT often needs you to be doing exercises at home.
Yes.
I don't do my exercises from the PT at home. So what I do is I put them in my training program.
Yes.
As a part of my training. And that's how we work with our PTs, is say to them, what do you need them to be doing? Because they're going to see me 2-3 times a week.
Right.
I will make sure that they're doing them in their program. So in their priorities, we come up with what those are. We put them a correctives section in there where we're working on these therapeutic exercises that they need. Then we build them into their main strength complex. So they're complementary. They're done as a warm up and activation type exercise for the main lift. And, we sort of build them into that circuit. So the interventions really focus on all of those levels of priority, from what are the correctives that are needed? What are the strength and power traits that are needed? What are the conditioning levels that are needed? And so we wrap that all up into the one intervention, and we do those in our 6 to 8 week blocks where we can really monitor their progress in those.
So let's talk about some of the traits that we would train for longevity.
Yeah, so longevity really, it sits on the same spectrum as athletic performance.
Okay.
If we think about the factors that really inhibit your longevity, it's that essentially you become more susceptible to them as you become more sedentary. So we lose muscle mass, which shrinks our world. As our world shrinks, our cardiovascular fitness reduces. We lose capacity again. And as we do that, these are the things that start the wheels in motion for things like metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease, dementia is a really big one, your brain health, and also then ultimately susceptibility to cancer. Mechanisms are pretty much the same. What we must do is stave off frailty.
Yes.
That means maintaining our bone mineral density. Right? Bones are super active tissue, constantly turning over. It just does it at a slower rate than muscle. So in order to do that, we have to give it a stimulus to lay down more bone tissue than it's breaking down. So we've got to be super strong. We've got to be lifting heavy weights. And what do I mean by that? Well, you've got to be lifting a weight that you can't do more than 12 reps of, right? This isn't a case where you can just do 30 reps or your yoga's enough or running's enough. You've got to be continually moving that bar and adapting to your training. As you do that, you're going to build a super strong and robust muscular system. That's going to put stress on the bones, allow the bones to get stronger while the muscles get stronger. They adapt a little quicker, which is fantastic. And think about all those muscle traits that we build for athletes. The strength that means that they don't get that soft tissue injury when they go out and perform. Mm-hmm. There's also the power to allow them to perform. A lot of people don't really regard power as being all that important as we age, but it's one of the most critical factors, for example, in fall prevention. You don't just stand there and fall over. That's not what anti sort of fall or fall prevention training is about. What's going to happen is you're going to trip. Mm-hmm. All right. Your gait adjusts a little bit as you age, mm-hmm. and your ability to lift that toe up mm-hmm. on your initial step starts to diminish a little bit. And so people catch their toe a lot more, they trip. Mm-hmm. That's how you're going to fall. So then how do you stop that? It comes down to the strength in your hip flexors. Mm-hmm. So can your hip flexor lift your leg and get your leg out in front of you fast enough to get your foot down? Mm-hmm. Now, once your foot's down, are your quads strong enough? And can they fire fast enough to put the brakes on to stop you falling? So that's power, mm-hmm. right? That's rate of force mm-hmm. development. If we can develop that power through explosive exercises, and again, explosive for you might be very different than it was for an NBA player, but it's still explosive power and your ability to put the brakes on and not get hurt, mm-hmm. right? That is what stops you from falling. Anytime we can avoid an extended period of being sedentary due to an injury or due to an illness, we extend your longevity.
Yes.
The thing we know is, and this was the same as we talked about that spiral in athletes, the thing we know is when you get that first injury, you all know that person that was never the same after the shoulder injury, right? And they just sort of spiraled from there. That's what happens. As your capacity diminishes, you get a big stepwise drop. You don't necessarily feel it, but your world shrinks. And then you get another stepwise decrease because you're susceptible to injury or illness. And you get another and another until you've reached a point where you're now frail. And so we've got to, at all costs, avoid the stepwise decreases in your capacity. So critical.
I'd like to come back to two things. I'd like to just reiterate that loss of power and loss of muscle are not inevitable.
Yeah, that's such a great point. You hear that over and over again. Yeah. And we often
we've heard experts say that as well.
Yes, over and over again. You see these beautiful rainbow curves of oblivion.
Yeah.
as we will now call them. Where you see at a certain age, boom, you've dropped off. It doesn't have to be like that. Mm-hmm. We just stop doing stuff. Mm-hmm. Our hamstrings get weaker because we stop sprinting over time. If we keep doing these things, yes, you might not be as strong or as powerful or as fit as you were in your 20s, but they don't have to drop to nothing. Your anaerobic fitness, if you keep doing high intensity training, will maintain. Your aerobic fitness will maintain. All of these traits, our job is to build them as high as possible and keep them there as long as we possibly can. It is not inevitable that these things have to go, that you have to get hurt. This was something we heard all the time in sport. Injuries are inevitable. That was before we went 3.5 years without having an injury at the Maple Leafs, because we deliberately trained out of the susceptibility for that. Mm-hmm. And we can deliberately train out of the susceptibility for all of these chronic diseases through keeping you physically robust while doing that same assess, intervene, monitor program for all of the chronic diseases.
There's two things that you and I talk about a lot. One is how you say about, the time to start investing is, 20 years ago. But if you can't do that, then you start now. What is it that you say?
Yeah, it's stolen from
Yeah.
investing in the stock market,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
The absolute best time to start investing is when you're 18.
Okay.
The second best time is today.
Yes.
Right? That because you just have to start. And it goes to the point we discussed that every level, at every age, you can improve from where you're at. If I start with a set lean mass and an 80-year-old starts with a set lean mass, we'll both get the same percentage increase. They might not get to where I'm at, but they'll get a percentage increase in their lean tissue, in their strength, in their power, bone density, all of these factors. You have to start now, and you have to do as much as you can. Now, the thing there is, the longer you've not done it for, the more intelligent you have to be about how we do this progression. Yes. Right? That's really critical to understand. If you've been out for a long time, you can't start where you were. We all have this image in our head of what we're capable of. Particularly as you're getting into older age, and we're talking 60s, 70s, 80s, you've got to be very, very careful about how you start this resistance training. There's all sorts of things that can happen in the body if we go too fast, too intense, too quick, and then the thing that was supposed to keep you robust and resilient ends up being the thing that hurts you. And so that's where, again, intelligent training, that's one of the factors we have to take into account, that if you haven't trained for a long time, we have to be really judicious with how we prescribe that intervention.
There's sort of two directions that I want to go here. One is I'm thinking about, it happens a lot. Men in their 40s, they were very athletic. And then now, maybe they want to go out and play pickleball on the weekend and they tear something. Can you talk to me about that?
Who specifically about? Do we know anybody like that in their 40s and used to be quite athletic? Right. Okay. Shots fired. Yes, we do know some people like that. And yes, I think that it is really important. Actually, like, men in their 40s are one of the highest demographics for people tearing their Achilles. It's super important. That just goes to what we were talking about. If you've been detraining from that level, you're going to get injured if you exceed capacity, either by too much too soon or for too long. If you go out and you've done nothing, let's say like an NBA player, when they land with a rebound or from a dunk, they can be landing with 10 times body weight, huge forces. Now, once you get into your 40s, you might not get to 10 times body weight because your jump might have reduced a little bit, but multiple times body weight. If you've not been training for that trait where it's rapid acceleration of forces as you land, huge braking forces on the Achilles, it's going to snap. Yeah. So you have to train into sport. People say all the time, don't play sport to get fit to play sport. And I think if playing basketball is all you do, I love the fact that you're out there playing basketball, explosive, reactionary, dynamic. You're having to be cognitively involved, visually scanning, all these traits. But doing the sport isn't going to be enough. You're going to have to train for those demands. And that goes for pickleball, basketball, tennis, golf. You're going to have to train the body to withstand those demands, because over time, your strength and your power and all these things, if you're not training them, are going to diminish. And golf puts huge forces on the body as we change direction in the swing, as we strike through the ball, as we decelerate into our backswing. Those forces have to be trained for, and they do diminish. Even though you're playing your sport, you're not actually putting a lot of the increased force on your system as you get older and you stop training.
Mm.
So super, super important that we're actually now training for that, training for longevity in your sport. We want you to play your sport as long as humanly possible, but you're going to have to train for that.
And we found a lot of people that are coming to us, they have never trained in the weight room.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to.
Yeah.
What I would like to give people here is an idea of what intelligent training looks like. So it's not 2 hours every day in the weight room.
Right.
Like today we did a 20-minute workout. Yeah,
that's exactly it. And our training doesn't look like you typically see, or you've probably typically done. I have a lot of people in the first couple of months be like, okay, so when are we going to start lifting weights? But they're so stressed by the workout. It's so hard for them. It just doesn't look like they thought it was going to look. Right? When are we going to do bench press? We haven't done that for a while.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's building the traits that you need for your sport. It's training you out of your susceptibilities, right? So there's going to be a lot of band work. There's going to be a lot of ground-based core work. There's going to be a lot of integrating the whole system, right? So we have to teach the body how to transmit force from the ground up through the arms and the upper body. It's the core and the pelvis are the junction for all force, all movement. And so it's really important that we train for function, not just for aesthetics. It's not segmental. You're not going to come in and do chest and back with me, right? Bis and tris. Basically everything is total body, right? With that junction, essentially, if we're doing that segmental training, bis and tris, the chest and back, we're not training for function now, for how you move in the world, for how we train athletes. Right? What we trained athletes for was function, to excel in their sport. All the movement patterns, all of the forces, the velocities, all this sort of stuff for their sport. And that's how people need to be thinking about longevity training. People come to us with terribly bad backs, knees, hips, because their system doesn't work as one. We're not transferring force throughout the system. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest differences that people see when they're training with us, is that their body's just going to start feeling connected.
So you were talking about mat work, floor work, band work. Just to clarify, I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a Pilates teacher. I love group fitness classes. I love yoga and Pilates. But there are misconceptions out there that yoga and Pilates and cardio is all you need. And we have a lot of ladies come into us with osteopenia and osteoporosis.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think that this is, it's one of the hardest things to see, because, this demographic of women who are finding us have spent their lifetime thinking that they've been super fit, doing the right thing. They do their yoga, they do the Pilates, they go for runs and hikes and walks. It doesn't put enough stress on the body to build bone tissue, is the reality of it. Your body adapts to your body weight, right? So if you go from doing absolutely nothing ever to yoga and Pilates, it's going to give you an improvement. You will get stronger. You will improve your bone mineral density. But your body is going to adapt very quickly to that. Like I said, physiological adaptation in this is 6 to 8 weeks. So at that point, how do we increase the stress? Right? How do we increase the forces that your skeletal system's having to deal with, so that it can further adapt and build more density? Again, this is one of those, the earlier you start, the more bone density you get. So I would strongly encourage young women, 20s, 30s, 40s. Those are your years to build bone mass.
You've been on me about it for 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. We have to get that money in the bank,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to compound that investment, right? Those are your years.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean when you come to us in your 60s and you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis that we can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we can move the needle. We might not get you back to what we would consider, in range for bone density, but we can improve it. And we can improve all of these other more rapidly adjusting factors. So we can improve your strength and power, right? We can reduce your risk of a soft tissue injury and of a fall dramatically, very, very quickly. And so don't feel like I'm saying if you've not done that early in life, you're done for. We can always adjust for that, right? And the important thing then is, okay, you have this risk factor. Now we have to avoid this risk factor and train around it so that we can eliminate it as much as we can as a risk factor. So if you're susceptible to a fracture from a fall, we can't have you fall. Right. So we work really hard on that. In fact, it's one of my favorite stories recently. One of our clients, she's in her 80s, right?
She's a beast, by the way. Absolute beast.
Right. She is. Goes to New York. What did we talk about? It's a trip, right? She's on the sidewalk in New York, trips. Her daughter, who trains with her, sees this happen. One of the exercises we do is actually a fall catch, right? So she stands on her toes, falls forward, brings her leg out, catches. So she trips on the sidewalk, brings the leg out, catches. Her daughter turns for her and goes, "There's your training with Jeremy." There's your money's worth right there. And that's the critical thing, right? She had an osteoporosis, osteopenia diagnosis. The important thing was she didn't fall, right? That's her risk factor. That's what we're training her out of.
And we love these client wins.
Love them because, again, think about what that did. She didn't fall. She didn't break her hip. And who knows if she would have or not. But that's a risk factor. The terrifying stat here is that the average lifespan after a hip fracture is 6 months. 6 months. Right. That is a terrifying stat. It doesn't have to be a death sentence. You can train out of that susceptibility and you can recover. You don't have to be one of those stats. That's an average. You can heal just fine. But the loss of mobility that happens when you have a fracture later in life leads to that outcome. People who are stronger will actually recover faster from that fracture. If you do fall, if you do get a fracture, being stronger allows you to heal faster. So now your outcomes on the other side of an injury are better. So that's the most important thing.
Yes, and we will have a follow-up episode specifically for osteopenia and osteoporosis because it's so prevalent, especially where we live here in Santa Barbara, Montecito, because women for a long time have trained to be thin and not trained to be strong.
Well, and eating too. And we'll cover that. I think actually, this deserves a series.
Yes.
Because the factors are it's multidimensional. There's perimenopause and menopause. There's nutrition. There's exercise. Right? There's all of these different factors. So we'll do a series on this, I think, with some really high level experts, and we can really dig into this.
Yes, and I would just like to reiterate. Can you just clarify that heavy training with heavy weights does not make you bulky? This is something that we have heard for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to get bulky.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because people think they're going to walk into the weight room and just touch the weight and balloon up. I have trained my entire life to be bulky.
Yeah.
My entire life. Yeah. This is as far as I've got. I've done okay. But this is 25 plus. Yeah. Don't necessarily want to admit that. It's maybe 30 years of heavy weight training. The reality is I have 10 times the testosterone in my body than women have. if a woman trained as hard as I did
Mhm.
for 30 years, she wouldn't look like I do. Physically can't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've trained right beside you for 20 of those
You're doing
years,
most of
so,
the same programs, right?
Yeah, and I'm not bulky, so
Right.
yeah.
And so I think that's the important thing to understand. Lifting weights isn't going to turn you into Arnold Schwarzenegger overnight, or even over a long time,
Mhm.
right? You can train and get bigger if you want, but
But
again,
that
set your
takes,
goal.
yeah, that takes
It,
like hours.
it's so hard.
Hours in it. So just let people know what it looks like to bulk up like The Rock.
Yes, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So if you as a woman lifting weights, if you want
Okay.
to get that big,
Yeah.
you're not going to turn out like The Rock, no matter what you do. But let's say that's the goal. I want to get as big as I can possibly get. Okay, you're going to be eating 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. He would probably, I'd say, take in closer to 9,000 calories a day.
That's insane.
Insane. And so hard to do, right?
Yeah.
He's lifting twice a day. He's probably in the gym 2+ hours per session.
Okay.
He is sleeping, right? So he gets up early, makes a big deal of that, but you don't get those gains without really good sleep. He is getting medical treatment, massage, physical therapy, needles, everything that, everything that sort of goes into maintaining your body for that. He is doing everything right and taking steroids.
Yeah.
Right. Which he's pretty open about. And most people who are that big in Hollywood are.
Yeah.
Right. It's so hard. It is so hard to get big. You can't do it. I'm sorry. I don't mean to have controversial statements on here.
Yes.
Like,
he's still speaking to ladies.
Yes.
To the women.
Yes. Short of doing that.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll see, CrossFit Games women getting bigger, stronger. That's what they're training to do. And it's so hard, right? That's the thing. You come and train with me 3 times a week and we train to get really strong. You are going to look lean, athletic. You're going to look fit and you're going to be strong, resilient, robust, confident, proud of yourself. These are the things we're training for, right? You are completely changing your outlook on longevity going into the future, completely changing how frail you become in older age. And that completely changes your experience of your last 15, 20 years of life. Completely changes it.
Yes. And I agree with all of that. I'm fitter now than I was 20 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think we've covered most of the sort of debunking the myths that I wanted to cover, but I would like to talk about sort of why constant variety in workouts is often counterproductive. It happens a lot in group fitness. It's sort of a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it comes to training, again, this is where intelligent training comes in because we're training to a goal. If you're training for a goal, you're trying to develop specific traits. That requires consistency over time. It requires you to be within a program over an extended period of time and adapt to that stimulus. If we train a different trait every time we train, we don't adapt in any of them. No, it's not to say there aren't merits. I don't want to give that impression like if you're doing that, you shouldn't be training. You'll get great cardiovascular gains. You'll burn body fat. You'll probably, gain some lean mass. That's fine. If your goal is just be tired, great. Do that. And always move versus not.
Yeah.
And some people, crave a little bit more of that, especially if they're not used to training. But training's inherently, it is a little bit boring. You can spice it up as much as you can. And there's a lot of ways to sort of slice and dice it, and a lot of different methodologies to achieve the same thing. But it's really important to be consistent, to train these traits. If we know you are too weak to play pickleball without sustaining an injury, you need to get strong. We're not going to do that if we are entertaining you, right, with your training. It's not a circus act where it's there for entertainment. It's there for a purpose to train you out of these traits. And it's difficult and it's a little bit boring at times.
And so if someone came in to start training, how long until they start noticing an improvement or a difference, or because it's not a magic pill, it's not immediate, right? How long until you sort of feel good about it?
So I think there are various stages to this. The initial stage, a lot of the early adaptations are your nervous system, right? You're teaching your nervous system which muscles to turn on, how to do the movement, how everything connects. So those gains happen quite quick. I would say within your first 3 weeks of training, you're going to start feeling connected, right? You'll walk around, your posture will be a little better. You'll notice that things turn on a little quicker when let's say you do trip or you slip or you're just turning and things like that. You'll start feeling connected in your body. And so I think that's when you'll first start feeling your training, about 3 weeks. The 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, I think you start seeing your first like glimpse in the mirror, and you're like, oh,
hello,
yeah, a little tense of the arm. Maybe you see the first veins, in your forearm. Guys, women, it's not necessarily one of the goals for women.
Yes.
These are things that you start to notice, and then you start at about, I think in the next sort of 4 to 8 to 12 weeks, when you're in a program for 3 months, I think you really start to feel strong when you're consistent. 6 months, going on to a year, now you're starting to just feel indestructible, right? You feel like invincible.
I love that feeling, by the way.
Oh,
that's one of my favorite things about training.
Yeah, it's the best. It doesn't matter what you can pick up the weight, whatever it is. 10 bags of groceries in the car. I got them. I got it. Right.
Yep.
These are the things that I think it's so rewarding. And the look on people's face when you pick something up off the ground, that they're like, oh, we'll wait for 8 other people and we can carry this. You're like, I got it.
Yeah.
And you just carry it to the car.
I love that.
The look on people's face when you're in the gym and you lift a weight that makes people's eyes like get wide or like double take, or you jump on that box that people are like, damn, okay.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Those are the feelings after about 6 months to a year that you're just like, I'm indestructible.
Yeah.
I'm a beast.
Yeah. It's a good feeling.
Yeah. It's really, really good.
It's to experience your body in that way.
Yeah.
Because, this is a whole other episode, but societal pressures and culture tells us all of the negatives about our body and how it looks and all these things. And it's shifting the focus to how you feel in your body, how you experience your body, and what your body can do is the antidote.
Yeah, I love that. I actually haven't really paid much attention to that, but so true. Because I think for men and women, you look in the movies, everyone's a superhero now, right? You compare to The Rock, you compare to Thor, you're compared to Wonder Woman, right? Like that's who's up on the screen. That's who's in the magazines. That's who's on social media. And I think you're absolutely right. Just because you don't look like that, when you can do the things you want to do, when I can get around the hike faster than I've ever done it, in my 40s, when I can deadlift the weight I was deadlifting in my 20s.
I can jump on a 32-inch box.
Right.
Yeah.
Your body can do the things that you want it to do.
Yeah.
Right? We're not limited, either of us, really, in anything that we want to do because of some physical capacity.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that we look at or think about and like, I don't think my body could do that.
I'm thinking about that time I played basketball with Toko.
Yeah, when you
It
went,
was that.
yeah. So the time you went one-on-one with an NBA player, and
I couldn't do that.
No.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
that was general population competing with NBA. That's where these two worlds collide, and they don't really
Yes.
go very
First,
well.
I can say that if you think you can take on that NBA player, I'm telling you, you cannot. Like, you cannot.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had this argument.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting. I've had this argument in basically every sport. First of all, staff members thinking that they could compete in an NHL game, having never really skated.
Yeah.
First of all, you're insane.
Yeah.
And then a 5'2" soccer player in a heated argument that they would score a point, probably a 3-pointer against Giannis.
No.
Like, you don't know how big somebody who's 7 foot tall is with like a 7'9" wingspan. Like, that guy could just stand under the basket and block you at the three-point line. Like, do you know how fast that guy is?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah.
And we like to encourage people and we like to empower people, but like there are some limits.
Some people need to understand their limitations.
Physics.
Right. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's last thing that I want to go over is, okay, so if someone doesn't have access to you, how do they find a trainer? How do they find a good practitioner to help them?
Yeah. Oh, this is a really good one. It's difficult. I think number one, qualifications, right? Education's not everything, but it's a start, right? At least a degree, maybe a master's, maybe a PhD in some sort of exercise science, kinesiology, physical therapy, biomechanics, something in that world. It's going to show that they have a really deep understanding of the science, the scientific principles of training, of how we're going to approach this. If they don't have the qualifications, that's okay, but they need to have some sort of experience that goes alongside it, and some sort of equivalent experience. So if somebody has been a professional athlete or has been a competitive, figure model or somebody who has trained for a long time, then I think that you can weigh some of that experience with education because they've either come across that education through their years. One of my favorite trainers, one of the best trainers I know, basically came out of high school into a great facility and just absorbed knowledge and is an elite practitioner. Elite. I actively tried to hire him at many of my teams, but couldn't get him away from the role he was in, right? He loved it. So it's not everything, but it's important, right? What are the scientific groundings? What experience or education, preferably both, does the person have? From there, one of the biggest mistakes people make is who somebody has worked with. We have a lot of people say, oh, well, this guy worked with Michael Jordan, or this guy worked with Tom Brady, or this guy worked with this person, which is all well and good. I don't think you should look at who a person has trained. You should look at the problems that they have solved. When you're going to seek this trainer, why are you going? What is the problem you're trying to solve? If you're trying to lose body fat, has this person consistently over many, many years helped all different kinds of people lose body fat? If they've never solved that problem, they're probably not going to solve it for you. And that goes for injuries, right? If you have a torn Achilles, has that trainer consistently built a reputation of success over many, many, many years to solve that problem for people? If not, guess what? They're probably not solving it for you. Once you've found your person with those sort of criteria in mind, then I think it's really important to interview them. How specifically are they going to help you? what's their version of this AIM model,
Mm-hmm.
right? How are they going to assess you, find out exactly what you need, what your limiting factors are, how specific and individualized is that program going to be for you? You don't need the same program as the person training next to you in the gym. So how are they individualizing that for you? And how will you know if it's going well? How are they going to monitor? That's what you need to know. If they are too confident, if they are the sort of person that is I am all you need.
So they need to be collaborative.
Well, collaborative and humble. They can be confident.
Yeah.
You'd want them to be confident that they can help you, but also realistic.
Yeah.
And also, look, this is complicated. If you're rehabbing an Achilles, it's complex. You don't only need one person. We need everyone from the doc all the way through to your physical therapist, massage therapist, your dry needling, your trainer. You're going to need a lot of people involved, at least at the sort of opinion level. Mm-hmm. And so their network is now important as well, and how they approach that. If they just sound a little bit too cocky, I'm probably not going with that person. I want someone with a bit of humility, confident, but transparent and honest about, the chances of this going really well.
Yes, and to speak to your point, I think that you want someone that will listen, take in. Like sometimes if someone's a bit too cocky, they don't really take on board the information that you have. One thing that I think is very important for people is that they recognize they are the expert on their body.
Yeah, great point.
Like in my yoga classes, it was very common that teachers would say, no, do it this way. And someone would be like, well, but I feel this or I feel that.
Yeah.
And the teacher wouldn't be responsive. And I think it's very important that you recognize that you know your body and the person that you work with should respond. And maybe if someone says, oh, this hurts, like you have a response for that. You say, well, let's talk about that. And you help them decide, is this a discomfort from training, or is this a pain hurt and we need to go in a different direction, rather than just shutting them down and, like dismissing it.
Yeah, that's really important. I think any trainer who doesn't listen, dismisses, or gets irritated with too many questions, that's not your person.
Yeah.
I think it's time to move on, and find someone who will co-create this program with you. This has to be the two of you with your input. As a trainer, I'm not a mind reader. I think I'm doing the right thing. I have a strong basis, a strong scientific backing for why I'm doing what I'm doing. I think it's a great program for you. It might hurt your shoulder, right? I need to know that so that we can change it. If you tell me and I get mad at you because I've designed this perfect program, then I'm not your trainer. I promise not to do that, by the way. So I think that's a really key point. I'm really glad you brought that up.
So we need to wrap up here pretty quickly, but can you give me 3 takeaways for people? Like what can they do at home to get started? What do they need to be doing?
Yeah, I think what's really important is that people need to get moving. So number one is wherever you're at, whatever stage of life, whatever injuries you've had, you got to start going. Find some help, whether it be online. There's some great places online to find help, great online trainers, great online programs. I think that's number one.
And there will be another online program later in the year.
Yes, there will.
Yes.
You got to start lifting weights. Slowly, safely, get some support, get some help, some guidance on how to do that. But you got to be lifting weights. Any age, any sex, you got to get going. And then you've got to keep making progress. Right? You've got to stay consistent, right? We're coming up on New Year's. Anytime you're watching this, it doesn't matter if you're watching this 10 years from now, you've got to be consistent. It's not about the outcome. It's the process of getting there. The outcome's a side effect. Don't worry about that. Set your goal. Great. Now it's off in the future. Don't worry about that. Set about achieving your goal steadily over time. That's what you have to do. Start really small. Start really achievable. That's how you build a habit. These things have to become ingrained, and that the only way you can do that is over time. If you set a goal to lose 100 pounds and you try and achieve it in the first month, I guarantee you fail. No one ever got in great shape in a month. It takes dedication over months. And so start the process 1 day a week, twice a week. Doesn't matter. We get amazing gains. Most of my clients train with me twice a week, and that's all the lifting that they do, and get amazing gains. Just start and be consistent. What's a level you can start at, and you guarantee you do it. If it's once a week, be realistic. Do once a week. Don't miss.
Yes, and starting this business, we've been incredibly busy over the last year. Like, we've barely even had time to get proper sleep.
Yeah.
It's work, go to bed, work, go to bed. And so squeezing in workouts has been a challenge. And so we've had to come back to that. And we've had a lot of 20-minute workouts lately, just trying to get them in. And they're so effective.
Super effective.
Yeah.
You can get so much done, right? You do them in circuit format, and you can get through so much stuff. With the athletes, we would do 15, 20-minute workouts, right? These microdosed sort of workouts throughout the season. So don't feel like, oh, I don't have 90 minutes to work out. I can't do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Do something.
Yes.
Half an hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Do something, right? I'm not going to say everyone can find half an hour. I sometimes can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Right. And so what can you find? That's the deal. Do what you can do, and you'll improve over time. You'll find more time for it over time, because you'll just build the habit and you'll love it.
You'll feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's great, Jeremy. So I think, we've touched on a lot of different things. I wish that we could go longer.
Yeah.
But we will have follow-up episodes. I know that definitely we want to address osteopenia and osteoporosis. We'd like to talk about women in lifting.
Yeah.
I think more of specifically lifting for longevity. There's a lot of stuff we can cover on injury prevention, injury rehab, avoiding frailty. I mean, there's so many directions we can go in. And
with all sorts of different experts.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd say, if you follow along with us, you'll find, more information on our Instagram, Vitality Collective Montecito, LinkedIn at Vitality Collective, and then our website, vitality-collective.com. And then right here on the Vitality Collective podcast, we are going to have so many world-leading experts joining me as the host, and Michelle will be producing behind the scenes.
In the background.
Right. We're so excited about this. We're going to cover the whole range, all of those essentials that we listed at the start. Deep expertise in these fields. People from the world of elite sport that you never get access to. We're going to have them right here. So subscribe. Don't miss an episode. And join us again. Michelle, thanks for the interview.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Vitality Collective podcast, where we explored the transformative concept of intelligent training. Here's your key takeaways. First, training isn't just about working out. It's about training with purpose. Define your goals and make every movement intentional. Whether it's strength, flexibility, power, or endurance, every trait can be improved no matter where you start. Second, longevity is about aging without getting old. It's about thriving as you age. Build strength, power, and resilience to stave off frailty and keep doing what you love for the years to come. Finally, consistency is key. You don't need hours in the gym. Start small, stay consistent, and adapt as you progress. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up and building a lifestyle that supports vitality. Remember, your body can improve at any age with the right approach. If you're ready to start, visit us at vitality-collective.com or follow us on social media. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of what's coming next. Until next time, keep moving with intention.